A very good morning, friends. So I hope you're all doing safe as well as healthy. Well, in the previous video, I was discussing the concept of calculating a tax base of an asset for the purpose of deferred tax calculation. In this particular video, we're going to deal with some examples, and these examples are given in the text of the standard itself. There are a total of 5 examples which are given, and I'm going to make a run through with all the 5 examples in this case. But before that, let us recap in terms of that when you're calculating the tax base of the asset, what question do I need to put across to myself? Well, the basic plain vanilla question to be put across is that when the economic benefits from the asset will arise, will it be taxable under the Income Tax Act? So there will be two situations: either the economic benefits is taxable or it is not taxable. If you say it is going to be taxable, then the tax base is the future deduction which will be allowed under the Income Tax Act against the taxable income. And if you say that the economic benefits are not taxable, then the carrying amount and tax base is equal. So the main focus point is asking yourself a question that will those economic benefits arising in the future, will they be taxed or not? If no, it's the end of the story, and if yes, then in that particular case, we need to calculate the future deduction. Let's, I think, take some examples which are given in the standard to elaborate this concept further. 12, 12. सर क्या गिन रहे हो आप? 12 जून 12 बजे, ये तारीख नोट कर लीजिए, क्योंकि जो बच्चे अपने सीए इंटरमीडिएट की तैयारी कर रहे हैं, खासकर 23 के लिए, उनके लिए 12 जून 12 बजे एक सीए इंटरमीडिएट का मेगा कॉम्पैक्ट कंपटीशन है. इस कंपटीशन के अंदर आपको लाइव टेस्ट के अंदर 60 मिनट्स में 40 क्वेश्चंस आंसर करने हैं, और इसके अंदर जो टॉप 300 रैंकर्स आएंगे उनको अप टू 70% स्कॉलरशिप सब्सक्रिप्शन प्लान्स पर मिलेगी. ये आपका टेस्ट लाइव कंडक्ट होगा, ऑल इंडिया बेसिस पर आपको रैंक्स इसके अंदर प्रोवाइड की जाएंगी, और जितने भी क्वेश्चंस आपके हैं उनके सॉल्यूशन वीडियोस आपको टॉप एजुकेटर्स द्वारा मिलेंगे. डिस्क्रिप्शन बॉक्स के अंदर आपको इस मेगा कॉम्पैक्ट कंपटीशन का लिंक मिलेगा. यदि आप अनअकैडमी के प्लेटफॉर्म पर नए हैं तो आप इस कंपटीशन में पार्टिसिपेट कर सकते हैं एब्सोल्युटली फ्री. अनअकैडमी ऐप डाउनलोड कीजिए और मेरा कोड इस्तेमाल कीजिए CAKB10 एंड आप इस स्कॉलरशिप के अंदर पार्ट ले सकते हैं. तो याद रखिएगा 12 जून 12 बजे. तो भाई किस बात का इंतजार है, आइए लेट्स क्रैक इट. Well, let's have a look at the 5 examples which are given, and let's have a look at the first example. Let's say there is a machine. Now, first of all, let's understand that a machine is going to be used in production of goods and service, and that means that is how the economic benefits will arise. Now, when you sell those goods and provide the services, is that benefit going to be taxable? Yes. So if that benefit is going to be taxable, then what is the deduction I'm going to get? I will be able to claim a depreciation on this machine against those sale of goods and service. So what you need to get the chain of thought is that these economic benefits which will arise in the form of sale of goods and service is going to be taxable, and against the taxable income, what is the future deduction? The depreciation of the machine. Let's say the cost of the machine is 100 and you've already claimed, let's say, a depreciation of 30. That means what is the future deduction going to be? You are yet to claim a deduction of 70. So the future deduction 70 becomes a tax base. Let's look at the other example. Let's say there is an interest receivable in the books of accounts. Now, there could be two situations in this case. Let's say the interest receivable was already taxed on cash accrual basis by the income tax people. If it was already taxed on accrual basis, now when you're going to collect this interest receivable, will there be any taxation implications? No, because the income tax have already taxed that money. So when you go to collect this money, there cannot be a double taxation. So if this money is already been taxed, then in that particular case, the collections will not result in any taxable income. So that means if there is going to be no tax consequences, the tax base and the carrying amount is equal. That would be 100. But let's say, for example, that the income tax authority is going to tax this on a cash basis. That means when you go to collect this money, it is going to become taxable. So if you were to collect this money and it becomes taxable, let me put across a question. Will the income tax authority give me a deduction? Will I be able to tell them that in order to collect this 100 rupees, I've spent, let's say, 15 rupees? No. They will not give you a deduction against this benefit. So future deduction being nil, the tax base in that case will become nil. So there could be two situations in this case. That if it was already taxed on an accrual basis, then no tax consequences would arise, and then the tax base and carrying amount is same. But in a situation where you say that in this particular case, the tax will be on a cash basis, so we need to understand what is the deduction which you're going to get against this collection. No deductions would mean the tax base becomes nil. Now look at another three examples which are there. Let's say you've got a trade receivable in the balance sheet. Now trade receivable arises on account of credit sale. So when you made a credit sale, it was already taxed. So when the money is collected from the debtor, there will be no tax consequences again. And if there is no tax consequences, the tax base and the carrying amount is same. Similarly, for a dividend receivable, let's consider that it is tax-free in the hands of the recipient. So when you go to collect this dividend receivable, there will be no tax consequences again, and that would mean in this particular case the tax base and the carrying amount is same. Similarly, if there is a loan receivable, let's understand a loan receivable when collected doesn't have any tax consequences, because the loan receivable is a principal amount of the loan. It's not a revenue receipt, it's a capital receipt. So that would not lead to any kind of tax consequences. So here again, the carrying amount and the tax base will be same. Now, if you look at this three example, let's understand one thing clear. When you say that the economic benefits will arise and there will be no tax, the reasons that there will be no tax could be one of the three. Either it has already been taxed, like in terms of trade receivable, it has already been taxed in the past, or it could be a case it is exempt from tax, therefore it's not going to be taxable, like dividend receivable. Or it is something, which is a capital receipt, so consequences of taxations don't arise. So we can say in terms of trade receivable, it is not taxable because it has already been taxed in the past. Dividend receivable is not taxable because it is exempt from tax. The principal amount of the loan is not taxable because it has got no consequences in terms of taxation. It's a capital receipt. So when you say that it's not going to be taxable in the future due to the reason that it's already taxed, or it is exempt from tax, or there are no consequences of tax, the carrying amount and the tax base becomes equal. So one of the common thing in terms of these examples is that there will be no tax implications on collection. But if you look at the two examples which I did earlier, use of the machine will produce goods and services, and that would lead to tax consequences. And I will be able to claim a deduction in the form of depreciation. Interest receivable, if it is going to be taxed on a cash basis, but you will not get a deduction. So in the first and second example, you can see that there is a taxability arising on the income, but in the first example, you will get a deduction, but in the second example, there is no deduction coming in the future. So these are the 5 examples which are given in the text of the standard Ind AS 12 itself. So that's all in this particular video. Wait for some more interesting inputs coming on this very interesting standard Ind AS 12. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye and take care.